I'm Andy Villamarzo with SBLive Sports Florida. Thank you for joining us for our 12th episode of the Coastal. It's our high school football podcast where we're joined by members of the media throughout the state of Florida. And we're almost at the midway point, and I wanted to bring on a trio of guys because obviously Polk County is just a county that's really buzzing when it comes to high school football. And I'm joined by Hasani Harper of H2 Recruiting, Landin May, and Dylan Oliver of PolkWay. And guys, thank you for coming on with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. And guys, we're going to jump right into it. I know all three of you attend games every week. The first 4 weeks, obviously, I don't know, some surprises, some things probably you already knew. We'll start off at the beginning of the season, though, and we're going to talk about the Dreadnoughts. They were a team that won the Class 4 state championship last year. They went through a coaching change with Coach Bill Castle retiring. Marvin Frazier, his first season. He's working with some new pieces, some returning pieces. And, through 4 weeks, and we'll touch on that Miami Norland game to start off the season. But through 4 weeks, I'm going to ask each of you, how would you evaluate the job he's done over at Lakeland, taking over? Let's start off with you, Landin.
I think, honestly, Coach Frazier has done a phenomenal job. I think they're right on pace to where I expected them to be at this point. A lot of people, we talk about a lot that Coach Castle retired, but we also don't talk about the fact that Coach Bodini, the defensive coordinator, retired. So you add that dynamic of somebody calling the plays on both sides of the ball is brand new. So they're looking at a new system on both sides of the football. Miami Norland is probably the best team in the state outside of IMG and Chaminade Madonna down south. So I expected the Dreadnoughts to compete in that game, which they did. And then you look at St. Joe's, another top 15 team in the country. So right now they sit at 2-2. And I think that's right on pace for where I thought they would be at this point in the season. Like I said, I think he's done a phenomenal job. And I think everything from here will be downhill.
All right. And then jump it over to Hasani. What's your thoughts on Lakeland so far under Frazier's watch?
Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, they're about honestly where I thought they would be. I thought maybe they'd get one out of the 2 games that they did end up losing between Norland and St. Joe's, but they're about kind of where I expected them to be. Still a good team. Still good at the skill position. Took a little bit of a dip in terms of, I'm not going to say necessarily talent, but more so depth on the offensive and defensive lines. And I think that came to play in those 2 games that they did lose. But as far as the job that he's doing a good job, especially when you're having to replace a legend like Bill Castle. I mean, it's never going to be an easy task for anybody that they throw in there. But the fact that he was a guy that from what folks are saying, that Castle was one of his selections to take over. He's doing a pretty good job of leading that program.
All right, and then lastly, Dylan, kind of your thoughts so far on the Dreadnoughts through the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, so I've seen them a few times this year. Obviously, the legacy of Bill Castle not being there anymore. Frazier, he's come in, done absolutely great things. This team lost over 30 kids because they were seniors going to college and everything. So with the younger team, transfers from the quarterback position to all the DBs really being different. It's tough. I didn't really expect them to go like 4-0 where we're at right now. I mean, 2 really powerhouses that we're talking about, St. Joe's national recognition, and then Miami Norland, just from Power 5 kids from the top to bottom. So competing with those teams like that, it's going to get them right later in the season when they're going down the stretch. through district games and everything like that. So, yeah, I think they're in a good spot right now. Obviously, they just dominated against a well-known Osceola team out of Kissimmee. Um, and they met them in the playoffs last year, like round 3 or 4. So obviously they're a pretty good team. And then now we start to get into the Polk County district games, and I think they'll start rolling. So.
All right. I mean, I know they got games against Lake Gibson here coming up, Bartow, Clearwater Academy International. Even though they're winless, they've played a really impressive slate of games. So to kind of touch on that at some point, kind of the back end of their schedule. Let's talk about Xander Smith real quick. He came over from Palmetto in the off season, and I'm going to try to keep it one question to each of you on just players. But Landin, I'll start with you. What kind of impression has Xander had on you from last year in terms of quarterback play? Because he wasn't with the team last year, came via transfer from Palmetto. How has he impressed you with the Dreadnoughts?
So obviously last year they were a state championship team with one of the better passers in the entire state, and Zachary Plus. I believe Zachary led the state as a sophomore in passing yards. So he was no slight at all. Just like Coach Castle, that's not easy shoes to fill. If you look at Xander's stats from last year, he had just as many interceptions as he did touchdowns. This year, his production is through the roof. I got to cover him in 7-on-7 a few times. So it had me kind of excited leading into the season to see what he would be able to do. But he's thoroughly impressed me to this point. He's been a game manager for the Dreadnoughts. Even though they've had 2 losses, if they pull out that Miami-Norland game, he's the story of the game. Through 4 touchdowns, was absolutely phenomenal, played lights out. Obviously, the defense can't give up 48 points. But yeah, Xander to this point has thoroughly impressed me.
All right, and I'll jump over to Dylan. Dylan, what skill player outside of Xander has impressed you offensively the most? I know they got some running backs, wide receivers. Who's the guy that really need to watch out for other than Xander?
Yeah, so I'll give you 2. I think the top performer right now is Rick Pennick, wide receiver. He transferred out of Ridge Community, Western Michigan commit. About 5'9", 5'10", electric type of kid that plays special teams. And when he gets the ball, watch out, he might strike, like every time. You think he's going. So that's a guy always look out for. And then Jamar Taylor Jr., I believe he scored a touchdown every single game this year. He was a back of a 4-star wide receiver, Tyler Williams, that's at Georgia now. So just probably being behind him and then learning some things, and then jumping this year, being that senior, being that guy. I think he's caught a lot of eyes. So
that name jumps out at me because I remember when he played for Lakeland, his dad played for Lakeland, and he ended up at the University of South Florida. He was a running back at Lakeland, so I think he was part of that duo with Chris Rainey, from what I remember. So definitely, once I heard that name, I said, he's got to be pretty good. His dad was pretty good, so he should be following the line. Hasani, I'm going to kind of throw at you defensively. Who's the standout on this Lakeland defense?
But I'd say, so I haven't really gotten a chance to see them in person yet compared to like Dylan and Landin. But kind of looking at film and kind of hearing about the guy's performance in the news, I definitely bring up Jamison Young, the 2024 cornerback. He's taking the momentum that he built up over in the offseason on the 7-on-7 circuit, and it's translating into the fall in pads. He's making plays, both in pass coverage as well as making game-changing plays, getting interceptions for that defense. And he really, is doing a good job of holding his own in the secondary out there. I think another guy to bring up would probably be linebacker Joshua Smith as well. I think is another standout defensive player for the Dreadnoughts.
All right. Well, we could probably talk about Lakeland this entire episode, but we do got to jump over to our. There's so many other teams. I'm going to go to the other state champion from last year, Lake Wales. Obviously, so far, so good for the Highlanders. They're undefeated. I've gotten to see them a couple times. You guys have all seen Lake Wales at some point. Start off with you, Landin. Just what stands out about this Lake Wales team? Because obviously, firepower wise, they lost some guys. And when you're talking about aerial attack, quarterback is gone. Carlos Mitchell transferred over to Lynn. Some other guys graduated. I mean, but they're getting it done now. But what would you say is kind of making this Lake Wales team just a team to watch out for again to possibly win it all in Class 3S?
Oh, I would say their cohesiveness. Like you said, they lost a lot of firepower. So initially, everybody was seemingly counted them out. Nobody would have thought at this point they would be 4-0. And you take a look at the Sebring game where there's not even an offensive touchdown scored, but they pitch a defensive shutout and score on special teams to get out of there and win 7-0. So this Lake Wales team has grit that last year's team made up for with talent. So they have a willingness to win, and they're not afraid of anybody. They're ready to line it up. They did receive a transfer from one of the best running backs in Polk County with Rashad Orr. I said preseason that he would be a 2,000-yard rusher. He's on pace for 2,500 yards right now, averaging 200 yards a game. So, yeah, they just have that willingness to win. Coach Johnson has them whipped into shape. They're coached well. They're not going to make many mistakes, and they're playing with that chip on their shoulder from losing so much talent last year.
I'll jump over to Hasani. We were at that game, Sebring Lake Wales, over at the what they dub is the House of Pain. And
yeah, the House of Pain.
I feel like if I had pads on, it would have been painful because those guys were hitting that night, and it was 7-0 Highlanders over the Blue Streaks. I mean, when you walked away from that game, just your thoughts, like, do you feel like this defense is even better than last year's unit?
Ooh, that one I really don't want to say yet, and mainly because of the fact that you look at what they lost on defense last year. They had two guys that ended up going Power 5 in the secondary. I want to say two guys that ended up going Division I on the defensive line. They returned their linebacking core, which has really been a standout for the team this season, in my opinion, on defense. But with what the amount of talent that they lost on defense on that side of the ball, I'm not ready to say that they're better than last year's unit, but they are still playing at a high level and doing a good job of keeping teams off the scoreboard.
And I'll jump over to Dylan. John Quay Richardson, I feel that's probably one of the first names outside of Rashad Orr that you think of when you think of this Lake Wales team. Just Dylan, why do you think Richardson's such a kind of under the radar type of player, especially when it comes to the state level, when he plays at such a high level? And taking a look at the amount of tackles he had last year, I mean, seemingly he tackled everybody that was on the field every game. So, right. I mean, what's your thoughts on him, and just why is he on the radar?
I think just the mindset of, like, everybody's saying, oh, that team lost so many players. Yeah, they won state and everything. And now he's one of the leaders, and he's like, man, they're talking on this. We're not going to make it this year. All right, let's show him. And he became such a big leader on that defensive side. And really, obviously, have been turning heads with these crazy hits that he's had, but that defense is young but energetic. They all grew up around each other. Lake Wales is one of those programs where, hey, we're going to play Little League together and we're going to go and win state together, So I think that group is special, and it leads with him. So,
and getting to see Lake Wales and Mainland back-to-back nights, seemingly we could see that again. And the two teams are a bit different, but still pretty doggone good. So could see a rematch possibly wherever States is going to be at. And we don't know yet, so we'll just say wherever. Could be somewhere down south, up north, who knows. But I'm going to jump over to a team right now that's also undefeated, like Lake Wales, and that is the Bartow Yellow Jackets. And I feel like they got kind of, dare I say, like a Deion Sanders hype-like feel to them. Like they, a lot of talk about them. There's remained a lot of talk about this team, and I mean, I'm planning on attending that October 5th game when they play Lakeland. I feel like I don't know if that could be a really good matchup, but I feel like if they're undefeated going into that, who knows? But the Yellow Jackets to this point, Hasani, I'll start off with you. Just kind of what stands out under Tyler Eden. This is his first year at the helm. Just why is this Bartow team undefeated?
Defense, point blank period. Defense. They've been playing fast. They've been playing physical in the Martin County game, which people expected that one to be close. Kind of getting away from Martin County because of the fact that their key guys ended up getting hurt in that game. Their key offensive guys, and I mean a lot of that was on the Bartow defense, really being physical and really playing with a chip on their shoulder. That was one of the games that they wanted to get kind of their get back from the way that the result went the previous season. And then they've really honestly been on a roll. I think they took a lot of the momentum that Eden has brought in with his new energy, with his youthfulness, and his mantra of, essentially trying to get a lot of those hometown kids to come on back home and help change the fortunes of the Bartow program. And it's kind of galvanized not only that team, but that community. And so when you talk about what's been the difference for this Bartow team this year compared to last year, definitely start with the defense. It's a couple key guys that I definitely want to mention, Ladarius Davis, the edge rusher. He's been having a heck of a start to his season so far. He's really impressed me. Quavion Bird, the defensive tackle, who recently committed to Central Michigan. A key guy that was almost lost to Lake Wales, and then he ended up coming back before the fall season started to finish up home at Bartow. And so he's been having a great season as well. And then I want to bring up, make sure to mention Lake Region transfer DeQuan Stanley, the 2025 linebacker, who right there is nose and nose with John Quay Richardson for probably one of the hardest hitting linebackers in Polk County. So those are three guys that I definitely want to mention when it comes to Bartow's defense and why they're off to this undefeated start this season so far.
All right. Well, I'll jump over to Landin here, and another team wanted to bring up. They're playing really good right now. I know I've seen Hasani, see them a couple times, and I know you've been following them. They're a small school, but the Fort Meade Miners. I mean, we got to talk about the Miners if we're talking about Polk County. They've been playing really good football to this point. Landin, what would you say kind of stands out about this Miners team from last year? Because obviously they're a team right now that you got to consider them kind of low-key contender when it comes to Class 2S.
Yeah, I would say they're a big-time contender for 2S. They add Kevon Mason from Lake Placid, 1,800 yards on the ground last year. They returned Carson Montesoka and Josh Porter, their 1-2 punch at quarterback and receiver. So you add 1,800 yards on the ground to that duo that returns, you get a high-power offense. They also got DK Kirkland from Avon Park to help on both sides of the football. So with them being a smaller school, when you have to play a team like a Bishop Verot, it kind of hurts you that you aren't as loaded in the trenches and that you don't have 60, 70 kids on the sideline to provide tremendous depth. A lot of their defensive linemen also play offensive line. So that depth later in the season and, once you get into the playoffs, it might hurt. But I think they are definitely a big-time contender just because their guys on the outside are so hard to stop. Not many people in the entire state can guard Joshua Porter on the outside. Kevon Mason, he just runs very hard. He's hard to tackle. Dylan actually got to watch him last week. and kind of see what I've been talking about, to see that guy in person. Wow, okay, yeah, no, he's a dude, he's a guy. So when you take an offense like that, it's kind of going to be a shootout with whoever they're playing every week. And lately, their defense has been stepping up. Against Mulberry, they only allowed 12 points. They had a 21-point margin of victory. So when you combine a defense that just wants it with a high-powered offense that you can't outscore, I think you become an instant contender.
I think if there was a potential matchup between Fort Meade and Bishopsboro, just seeing the way that both teams are playing, that could be a game that lasts probably over 3 hours and maybe over 100. They're obviously really good offensive football. Jumping over to Dylan, another undefeated team. There's so many. I feel like there's like a boatload of undefeated teams in Polk County. Auburndale, 3-0 right now, Dylan. They're going to play Bartow. Battle of undefeateds. How do you feel about the Bloodhounds so far? And just, I mean, how do you feel about them against Bartow?
That's going to be the game of the week this week. So we'll see. I have yet to see Auburndale this year, but I can tell you the sophomore quarterback, Chad Williams, beat Amarion Turner, that is now at Bartow, for the starting position at quarterback. So I feel like the team has really gathered around him. I know they've had some hard-fought wins, one of them against Haines City, where it was final score was 7-0. And then just the defense really stepping up. They got starting with Nate Gabriel, West Virginia commit. Sorry. And then beating, Hasani, but Kathleen. EBW.
Oh, that's
But
yeah.
they have a young team. Jay Sean Pritchard, running back, straight dog on the offensive side. And then defense, the linebacker Elijah Diaz, he's a 2026 kid, unbelievable talent. Soon to be Power 5 kid. It looks like he gets 10 to 20 tackles a game. It looked like he's just all over the ball. When I saw him in spring against Lake Gibson, I think he got probably 25 tackles. It was ridiculous. But they're, like I said, they're young, but they got a lot of energy over there, and I can't wait to see them. So.
And for those who don't know, if you follow Hasani on X, formerly Twitter, he takes these Kathleen, just anything. That is his alma mater there. I know the loss is kind of hard. Hasani.
It's gonna be a long season for my boys.
Yeah, I was like 0-4. I mean, I get it. I went to Gulf High School. I look at those scores and I just, hey, if they win, it makes the Friday night a little better, and then if they lose, so I do see that on Friday night. I know when I see your post out there that Kathleen lost, it's like not a good feeling. But you know what? Dylan just brought up Lake Gibson. That is another team I did want to touch on. They're 3-1 right now. Hasani, just kind of run me through Lake Gibson here real quick. I know they're going to have some big games here coming up. Kind of talk about the Braves and just how they've gone through the season, kind of bouncing back from last year.
Yes, I've only got to see them once, and I got there, I want to say maybe like the middle of the second quarter in their game against North Miami, which ended up going into, I want to say, double overtime. It seemed at one point no team wanted to win that game. They're still a young team. A lot of their key guys, their key talented guys are underclassmen. So we're really going to find out a lot about this Lake Gibson team and how this season is going to go with these next couple games coming up. They've got Lakeland and they've got Lake Wells. So they've got two teams, the team, the defending state champs in 2 consecutive weeks. So, but of course, they've got this bye week coming up. So 2 weeks to prepare for Lakeland, which will be a big rivalry game for them. So we'll learn a lot about this Lake Gibson team and if they're be on the right path entering year 2 with Coach Pringle in these next couple weeks.
All right. Well, we've gone through the teams, kind of the ones that a lot of people would know about. Landon, I'll start with you just on teams that we haven't mentioned. What team would you say kind of standing out right now that is flying under the radar that we haven't mentioned?
Really, Winter Haven. They head into a matchup with Lakeland this week. That is going to be a tough game for Lakeland. I believe Winter Haven is undefeated to this point. I don't think they've lost either. If they did, it was the Kickoff Classic, I believe. So that's another undefeated team in Polk County to this point, I believe. Who they Winter Haven has never been a pushover, and they bring over Coach White from Ridge Community. They have a new quarterback in John Codish, a big time national prospect, Jishan Myrtle, a Tulane commit who plays both sides of the ball, who you have to game plan for on both sides of the ball. He'll kill you at tight end or he'll kill you at edge. Either way, I remember last year when I saw him, he had a pick six against Auburndale at the defensive end spot, but he was known for tight end. So, like I said, you have to game plan for him both sides of the ball because he's a big time playmaker. Also, I want to give a shout out to Haines City. They have lost 2 games this year, but the 2 games they lost to Auburndale and Winter Haven came with a combined less than 30 seconds left on the clock. So they have been in dogfights all the way to the end of the game this year. And I think they have a lot of 26 and 27 talent, which is probably why they haven't been able to pull out those wins due to a lack of experience. But I like the fight that they've shown to this point.
And what Landon's talking about is about 12 or 13 points, give or take, from what I see here. One loss, 7-0 to Auburndale, and then the 12-7 loss to Winter Haven. Looks like 12, 13 points, and then about 1 minute more or 1 minute less, and you got a 3-1 Hornets team. So that's a team definitely keep it on here the rest of the season. Dylan, is there a team that you think we haven't mentioned yet that definitely we need to watch out for here?
I think a team that has honestly flipped the script. They got a newer staff, Mulberry Panthers. I got to see them last Friday. They played a very tough Fort Meade team, obviously. It was back and forth. It was a good defensive game. Like I said, that's another young team that has a lot of juice. They think that they need to be covered all the time because the energy that they have over there it's different. So I think Mulberry, the next 4 or 5 games are very possible of going 5-0 in those, and they're at a 6-1 record. So deep in the stretch, they can be a very serious team, well coached. But I think the Panthers are a team to look out for.
All right. Well, then I'll jump over to Hasani. Lastly here, I mean, who do you think we haven't talked about yet that needs a little bit more attention?
I'd probably say Frostproof. Outside of the one loss that they took to Lakeland Christian, where they were actually up by a couple scores and just had the ball kind of bounce the wrong way for them, and then they ended up losing that one. I mean, they've been quietly putting together some solid wins themselves under first-year head coach Richie March, but returning. He previously coached the program before, so but just they lost a lot from that playoff team that they had last year, but they've got some young talent that return, and they're quietly, I feel like, putting together a solid season themselves, and they'll have some key games coming up against Fort Meade down the road, and also a couple other programs that we'll kind of learn about that team as well in the first year of Coach Richie March's regime there.
Yeah, that Mulberry, Mulberry and Frostproof is in like 4 or 5 weeks, so that should be a good one.
All right, I'm gonna mark that down on the calendar there. Guys, just kind of to end off the show, I know you guys really kind of focus on recruits, just guys who are kind of hidden gems, because obviously we know South Florida gets a ton of attention, Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville, but people don't realize a lot of talent comes out of the 863. So I want to go to each of you, and I'm going to put a little twist on this. Like you guys give me each one kind of gem that people don't know about, but they will know about. And then give me your one bold take that'll happen when the season's over. Like, give me a bold take when it's all said and done that you can almost book it. It's going to happen. So I'll start off with Landin. We start off with you with this show. Give me a gem, and then give me your bold take.
Thank you. I don't know if his phone died or something.
All right, well, go, Dylan. Go with you. Give me your one gem and then your one bold take.
My one gem. I think I'm gonna have to go 2026 running back Travion Himes out of Bartow. I got to see him against Kathleen in the springtime, and absolutely, I think he had 2 or 3 touchdowns, and he's probably 6 foot, 6'1", 170-ish right now, and he's moving, and he looks like a senior. He looks like he's already being a part of that leadership group at Bartow. He's in a great spot with Tyler Eden and the coaching staff. He's gonna get right for college and everything like that. So I think that's a guy to look out for in the next 2 years.
And what would be your one bold take that you're going to go out on a limb and say this is going to happen?
I think I'm gonna stick with Bartow. I like what's going on over there. I think Bartow will shock a lot of teams when it comes to playoff time, and I think they make it to the 3rd or 4th round.
All right. Dylan Oliver saying they're going to get to the region final or a state semifinal.
Yep.
Okay. Gotta get that out there. All right, Hasani, over to you. Give me a gem that you've seen that not a lot of people are talking about, and then give me your bold take.
So I guess my gem would be a guy that I actually got a chance to finish up his highlight last night. Lake Gibson 2024 defensive lineman Jalen Evans. That kid is putting together some good film. I was really impressed with what I saw. His explosiveness off the snap of the football, his ability to get in the backfield and make plays in the run game, as well as create pressure in the passing game, pursuing the quarterback. And I was trying to figure out why I didn't even know about him, and I checked his huddle, and he didn't have a full season highlight last year. So it might be one of the reasons why he has a pretty quiet recruiting process right now. He had offers from Edward Waters, UNC Pembroke, and then he picked up a Division I offer from UAB in the spring. So, but those are his only 3 offers at this point. He's a guy that I think is going to really wake up a lot of college coaches in these next few weeks, especially again with the schedule that they have coming up. There'll be an opportunity for him to showcase that he is indeed a for real prospect. So he'd be my hidden gem right now, Jalen Evans, 2024 defensive lineman, Lake Gibson.
And what is Hasani Harper's bold take? What's going to happen when the season is over that no one saw coming, but you saw coming?
I think there'll probably be another state championship coming to Polk County. Now, which team will it be? I don't know. But I do think with the way, again, with how they changed up the classifications, I think it still does for Polk County programs to make a run and for those teams have the talent to put themselves in a position to win a state championship. So whether it's going to be Lakeland again, Lake Wells again, or could it be one of these other programs like a Bartow or a Fort Meade to come in and shock everybody. But I do feel like we're going to have another state championship that returns to Polk County.
All right, and then lastly, I think Landin did it on purpose so he could be last because I wanted him to be first. Get it? You know what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
So here we go. Landin, give me your one gem prospect that not a lot of people know about out of Polk County, but people should get to know. And then you got to give me the fireworks. What's your bold take? I know you got a bunch of them, but you got to give me a bold take that book it. This is happening at the end of the season. People don't know it, but I know it. So you tell me Who's your gem and what's your bold take?
So I didn't get to hear Dylan's. Dylan, who did you say?
Trevion Himes.
Got you. I would probably say Cornelius Purdy out of Lake Wells, 2027. Freshman receiver, already has one Division I offer. He got offered before he was even in high school. He was just at a spring practice. Hasani actually told me about him. Apparently, coach was like, "Who is this?" Well, oh yeah, he has an offer to come play here at Marshall, right? It was Marshall, I believe.
Marshall.
He plays. You know, they updated the 6-quarter rule.
Shout out Coach Ralph Street.
Yes, sir. Shout out to Coach Street. They updated the 6-quarter rule so you can play 2 quarters or 6 quarters total, broken up on JV and varsity. And last week, Purdy scored 6 times between JV and varsity, 3 on varsity, 3 on JV in the same week, back-to-back nights. So for a freshman, that's very impressive to me. Yeah, that's my under the radar standout guy who the rest of the world will know soon. My bold take. Bartow Yellow Jackets 15-0, baby.
Oh, all right. Well, Dylan was our 4th round of champions. All right. Well,
hey, did you hear my bold?
What was it?
That
said
they make it. Yeah.
It was a region final or state semifinal. You're saying they're going to win it all.
For Bartow, hey, see, great minds think alike. I'm telling you. Coach Eden, you hit it on the head when you said he's bringing that Coach Prime type of hype.
Yeah.
He's active on the media where the kids are. Just like Coach Prime, he had a plethora of transfers come in. Even though they were homegrown kids, they were at Lake Wells, Lake Gibson, Lake Region. And he calls it closing the gate and keeping those guys. So they all came back. They've been playing together since they were 8 years old at 555 Little League football. Yeah, man, I think the Bartow Yellow Jackets are a scary team. I think they're going to shock the world when they play Lakeland on that October 5th date. And if they can get past the Lakeland Dreadnoughts, they can get past anybody.
Well, I will be there for that game. And yes, Coach Eden definitely. And another coach that I and he's not in Polk County, but Stephen Moffitt over at Leesburg. I feel like both of these guys are bringing that Dion type vibe.
Yeah.
About
that's a good
social
point.
Really getting these guys the graphics and everything, making it look good. And I mean, look good, feel good, play good. That's what these guys are doing. And it shows in the turnarounds with their team. They're able to kind of go out there on Friday nights with the confidence and know that they have a chance anytime they step on it. So definitely going to be watching out for Bartow. And I'll see October 5th when they take on the Lakeland Dreadnoughts. That's going to be an interesting game, I'd say the least, and probably plenty of social media talk. So
it's the only game that night too. So I'm hoping and anticipating a large crowd that night. Of Polk County fans showing up to watch that one.
You know what? And I wish we could go so much longer on just that note, but I know last year when I went to that Armwood Lakeland game, and I know you guys were there, I told many people, I've been around so many different parts of the state, and I said that game, I don't know what it was. It was like tension plus just you knew it was a big game. I know it's like kind of an untold rivalry in a sense because they're just right down I-4 from each other, but I told a lot of people, Armwood and Lakeland, I don't know what it is with these two schools other than they're kind of, less than an hour down I-4 from each other, but they don't like each other. There definitely was a vibe at Bryant Stadium, and if Bryant Stadium has that kind of vibe with that game, I can't wait. So I'm going to be signing out here. Hasani, Landin, Dylan, thank you guys for coming on. You guys are the Polk County guys that I definitely pay attention to every Friday night, and you guys do a great job with coverage on Friday night. So I appreciate you coming on with me, and let's talk again soon here as the season progresses later on.
Yeah, appreciate
it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And that is our latest episode of the Coastal, our 12th episode. And join us next week. We'll have WC's Allison Posey. She'll be talking Big Bend football over in the Tallahassee area. So thank you for joining us on our latest episode of the Coastal.